Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at my Game Week 35 team selection. So as usual, we're going to go through how I did for double Game Week 34. There is still one game to go, the Manchester United versus Brighton game, but aside from that, all the other results have already been confirmed. So I'll talk a little bit about my scores for Game Week 34 and then go into Game Week 35, discuss some transfer plans, and also see how the team is looking like for the time being. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this video, and if you do, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. I just wanted to take this time before we get into the Game Week 34 score to thank you guys for all the support that you've shown the channel this season. I really appreciate it, and I cannot thank you guys enough. Alright, so on the screen right now is my Game Week 34 team, and this is how I did, right? Currently, I'm sitting at 74k with a couple of players to go, right? To be exact, I have 5 more players to go: Luke Shaw, Estupiñán, Mitoma, March, and Marcus Rashford, right? But aside from that, all the other players have completed their games. I'm currently sitting on 74k in the world, so a very small green arrow up 4k places, right? So hopefully the aim is still to break into the top 50k, which is eluding me slightly, right? I'm trying to get into that top 50k, but it is quite difficult to push in. So hopefully in Game Week 35 we get there, because there's not a lot of game weeks left. So if I do have to take a gamble here and there, I think I may. Right, so in terms of the scores, let's talk about Ederson first. So I think when it comes to FPL trolls in the goalkeeper position, I don't think there is anyone else better than Ederson this season, right? He's just been incredibly good at dodging FPL points, conceding the odd goal here and there from 1 or 2 shots conceded, right? We saw that against Fulham, and then he gets benched. Pep says he's rested, right, he's rested for not making any saves. I mean, in general, when he plays, he doesn't even make a lot of saves. So I don't see why there's a need to rest the keeper. But apparently Pep feels like there's a need to. So Stefan Ortega comes in against West Ham, and obviously he keeps a clean sheet then. So I mean, it is typical FPL troll Ederson, but I did bring him in Game Week 34, in time for the double. So in hindsight, when I look at it, I still think that the decision was okay, because if he played against West Ham, you would think that's a clean sheet there for him. But in general, I just feel like if I could go back in time and I knew the results now, what I may have done was gone for John Stones instead, right? And maybe kept Raya. So for now, I can't complain too much. Ederson is still a good keep for the rest of the season. There's only a couple of game weeks left. I don't think I'll be spending transfers removing Ederson when I've already brought him in. Right, so there we go for Ederson. In the back line, there's Trippier, Trent, Shaw, and Estupiñán. Very good returns from most of my defenders except for Trippier. Now, of course, there is still a game to go for Luke Shaw and Estupiñán. It remains to be seen how many points they would get at the end of that game. But for now, Trent scored 11 points, so that's really great. Shaw as well kept a clean sheet. Estupiñán as well in that thumping against Wolves. So Trippier, I think, is a little bit unfortunate because he did concede that goal against Southampton, right, from a cross from the left flank. So that's kind of where they are weaker, I think. In terms of statistics, they have conceded more chances down the left, and I think that is where the defensive numbers for Newcastle actually drop off a little bit. So moving forward, I do have Botman on the bench, as you can see, who got an assist, right? So it is what it is, right? FPL sometimes just work like this, where Botman on the bench gets more points than Trippier, when Trippier most likely is the one that will get assists. So in general, when it comes to double Newcastle defense, I'm not too worried at this point. I know a lot of people are pivoting to a double attack for Newcastle because Isak and Wilson are looking really good. But for now, I'm happy enough to keep these two, and it's not in my plans to pivot to a double Newcastle attack. So I may just go for one of Wilson or Isak for the time being. That's the plan. Right, so that is my defense. In midfield, Salah, Grealish, Mitoma, March, and Rashford. I won't talk about the 3 of them who haven't played yet, but what I will say is that Mitoma and March are really unlucky to get 1 pointer for both of them, because March played quite a decent amount of the game against Wolves, 6 goals and no goal involvements. Mitoma came off the bench, so I guess it's a little bit more justified, that 1 pointer there. But in general, you would think he did have a really good chance in the cameo that he had in the Wolves game as well. So I think hopefully in this Manchester United game they will get some returns, but I'm not too worried about their prospects moving forward because they were rested against Wolves. They do have a very tight schedule coming up, so I think it makes perfect sense for De Zerbi to rest them. Moving forward, I think their minutes should be secure as well, right? And then for Salah and Grealish, Salah of course, two jammy penalties. I would have to admit it was a little bit jammy because he wasn't technically very involved in both of the games for Liverpool, right? Whether it's against Tottenham, whether it's against Fulham, both of the games he was not very involved, but still coming away with two penalties. And I guess that's the benefit of having a penalty taker. Thankfully, he is still on penalties and scored both as well, because we will remember he actually missed a couple of penalties before this, and there was some doubt there. So 18 points for Salah, can't complain there. For Grealish, 7 points. I think he is slightly unlucky to only come away from this double game week with 7 points. He hit the post in both of the double game week games, and on top of that he is putting a lot of crosses into the box, and there are quite a couple of chances that Haaland and Mahrez had that Grealish kind of assisted them. So if they had actually scored, right, if Haaland and Mahrez actually scored those chances, Grealish could have gotten more points by getting the assist. So it is slightly unlucky there. I'm not too worried about having Grealish at this point, because I know some people are thinking about the prospects of Bruno Fernandes, because simply Bruno Fernandes kind of killed my rank this week. Grealish's position right now could have been Bruno Fernandes if I went a different route, right? So I could potentially move to Bruno Fernandes next week, but there are also a couple of punts that I want to take, and Grealish's spot is possibly where I want to make those changes, right? So more on that later on, but up front there's Erling Haaland, 16 points as my captain, 1 goal in each of the games, and then you multiply it by 2 because he's the captain, 32 points. So breaking the record for the Premier League record as well, I think is incredible, right? He is just an FPL asset that is so crucial to have, right? So he has proven it throughout the whole of this season. So moving forward, I think Erling Haaland is not to be doubted, right? We just keep captaining him in game weeks where he starts, right? I think it is too costly to bet against him, even in the last few game weeks where there is potential that he'll be taken off maybe slightly earlier for Champions League, to rest for the Champions League. Right, so there we go. On the bench, nothing much to shout about other than Kepa, who outscored Ederson by 2 points, and also Botman, who outscored Trippier by 3 points. But aside from that, that's pretty much it. Let's take a look at the Game Week 35 team. So the plan for Game Week 35 for now is to roll the free transfer. So as you guys can see, 1 free transfer left, but this is largely dependent on the team leagues that we get before the deadline. Now for this week, Game Week 35, the deadline is slightly later, and simply because there is no early kickoff. So what this means is that we will get early team news for quite a couple of teams, namely Manchester City as well. So do keep a lookout for that, and I may use that 1 free transfer that I have now on a couple of punts that I want to take if we get news of who's starting for Manchester City. Right, so for now, this is a starting 11 if I roll the transfer. It's a 3-5-2 formation with Ederson in goal, Shaw, Estupiñán and Trent in the back line, Salah, Grealish, Mitoma and March, as well as Rashford, right, in the midfield, and then Haaland and Watkins up front. So this 11 that I've just named here kind of picks itself, because if you take a look at the bench, Greenwood, he's just a bench fodder. Double Newcastle defense, they play Arsenal, so I'll bench them. And I don't think I'll start any Chelsea defensive asset at this point, right? They're just looking really shaky, whether it's in attack or whether it's in defense, and they're going through a really tough time, right? So I think Kepa will still be on the bench, and sadly I do have to play Ederson at home against Leeds and put myself through 1 more week of Ederson pain, right? But there we go with this starting 11. So Shaw, Estupiñán and Trent will be my defense. I think I don't want to be spending transfers. I did see a couple of questions asked whether we should move Shaw on to Darlow, but I think at this point free transfers are very, very crucial, because I would rather spend that transfer on a higher upside move, which I'll mention later on, than doing Shaw to Darlow, right? Because a defensive change I don't think has as high as a ceiling as compared to an attacking change, whether it's in the midfield or the forward line. So I'm likely just to keep Shaw. I don't think I would advise moving Shaw to Darlow, simply because it just burns a transfer that you will find handy later on in the last few weeks. So that's the defense, right? Shaw, Estupiñán and Trent. Estupiñán also picked up an assist in the Game Week 34 game, so it is looking good, right, that finally he's getting attacking returns for all the crosses that he's putting in. Trent as well, I'm pretty confident that he'll continue to take along with more assists and hopefully keep a clean sheet at home against Brentford as well. Now in the midfield, Salah, Grealish, Mitoma, March, and Rashford. Salah plays Brentford at home, so at Anfield, I think you would favour Salah to continue to tick along, and also hopefully he gets more involved in the game, because the double game week 34 games he did not look very lively, though he got 2 jammy penalties. Right, now for Grealish, this spot is where I think I can see myself making a couple of punts here. I could go for Grealish and transfer him out to Foden, right, and use my one free transfer there, because I do think like Foden is a more explosive pick. And moving forward, I do think like Foden will get more minutes in the Premier League, because he is coming back from injury. He's looking really sharp as well. So I think Grealish to Foden is a move that could be for the long term as well. Right, so that obviously will depend on the team leagues that we get, but for now that is in my in the plans, or at least it's at the back of my mind. Right, and then Mitoma in March, they play Everton at home. It's very likely they'll continue to get returns, because Everton don't look the sharpest at this point, and on top of that, Brighton are scoring just for fun. Right, so hopefully March and Mitoma will get some returns there. Marcus Rashford as well, West Ham away, you are banking on the Manchester United talisman to get some returns. Up front, Erling Haaland, who's the captain against Leeds, I don't think there's much to debate here, aside from the fact that if Haaland is rested against Leeds to get him ready for the Champions League, then in that case, there is a very slight possibility that I may do a hokey-cokey, where I sell Haaland for Alvarez so that I have triple Man City in Ederson, Grealish, and Alvarez, and then after that in Game Week 36, bring Haaland back in. That is the hokey-cokey, it is something that I think I'm not opposed to, right? It does burn a couple of transfers here, but I think the upside is there against Leeds at home for Manchester City, if we get news, of course, that Alvarez starts and Haaland is benched, right? So obviously that will depend a lot on the team news as I mentioned, right? But for now, assuming Haaland starts, Leeds at home, I don't think you can look anywhere else for the captain's armband. And then Ollie Watkins plays Wolves away. Wolves have looked really poor against Brighton in the last game, in Game Week 34, so we are hoping that the Aston Villa talisman will be able to get some returns against this Wolves defense. So there we go with the team, and as I mentioned, there are a couple of changes that I am considering. So Grealish to Foden is one of them that I mentioned just now, but I could also very well just do Grealish to Bruno Fernandes. I think that's a move that I'm not opposed to, just simply because Bruno Fernandes has been getting into very attacking positions of late, right? Against Tottenham, he hit the bar, he simply missed a sitter there, right? And owners were slightly unlucky to not get more returns from Bruno Fernandes. And I just think in general that you add the fact that he's on penalties as well, I think comparing asset to asset, Bruno Fernandes is definitely a better asset to own than Jack Grealish. That's not to say that the fixture of West Ham away is that much better than Leeds at home for Man City, but I think it is just a move that is at the back of my mind, and I may or may not do it. It's just one of the moves that I'm considering at this point. Also, as I mentioned, largely dependent on team leagues, right? Because if Grealish is benched, then I could very well just make that move, or I could just do the Foden move as well. So for now, this is what I'm thinking. Let me know what you guys think of the team, what you guys are doing with your teams in Game Week 35, and whether you're rolling, because I think quite a couple of players, a couple of managers are rolling their transfer this week to get ready for the future doubles in 36 and 37. So there we go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. And I'll catch you guys as usual 3 hours before the deadline on this Saturday's deadline stream. Bye bye.